Sure.
Welcome back again, Mrs. Zucchi, and taking our conversation further. If you were to look at 2611 and post that situation, there was the Ram Pradhan committee that was appointed to go into the, the details of what our response was. What was the learnings from the post 2611 terror attacks incident, where we lost so many human lives and there was so much of collateral damage that was suffered by Mumbai city, and even psychological damage to the citizenry of India in terms of what that attack had been able to unleash. So as learnings, what were the immediate learnings that you all came to post the terror attacks, once it had been controlled by the NSG and other agencies of Indian security?
Yes, Reni. So we had the Ram Pradhan committee, which held a large number of meetings. I remember they had an office within Mantralaya. And then Mr. Justice B.N. Sri Krishna also had 3 meetings, I think under the directions of the Supreme Court, if I'm not wrong. But he didn't really follow up on that, because perhaps they felt there was already this Ram Pradhan committee looking into it, and there was no need for a second committee. Besides these 2 committees, we also had a large number of visits from the security agencies of different countries. I remember the US had sent a team, the Mossad had sent a team, there was a team from Germany, from Israel, as I said, the UK, various countries had sent us teams, and they were all offering us their expertise and hardware. I remember attending a conference in Singapore where they also were offering us expertise in hardware. So the learning process, yes, learning process was that have better cohesion and coordination between your security agencies. Sometimes, we tend to treat our area as a fiefdom, and we don't really reach out to other agencies, but that doesn't work. If you want better governance, better security, you have to reach out to other agencies. You have to be a part of a whole group. For example, it's not just the police, it's also the army, it's the Coast Guard, it's so many other agencies. It's also civil aviation. For example, I'd done a paper on security from the air after this happened. I'd sent a copy to Government of India. I don't have a copy of it with me, but in that I had pointed out how vulnerable we were from the air. Any attack from the air, we are very, very vulnerable, because there are any number of not just airports, but helipads and landing strips all over the country, all over Maharashtra. If I'm not wrong, the small strips are controlled under the control of the district magistrates. And there is a protocol, there are rules to be followed while using the strips, while taking off, while landing. Now, if you're a terrorist, you're not going to follow any of the rules. You're just going to go there and take off and come over Bombay and release your bombs. So I'd done a paper on this. Yes, so the learning is that the agencies have to be more cohesive, have to keep meeting each other more often, have to keep exchanging information, and there should be no one-upmanship. Unfortunately, in our institutions, not just government, but even private institutions, there is this element of one-upmanship, where I know more, or I'm right and I told you, but you didn't listen, that sort of thing. And there's so much of job. Yeah.
Isn't this also
So this
true?
doesn't work.
Isn't this also true at the time of the 2611 attacks being ongoing, about a lack of coordination within the police department itself? Because we do understand that the Mumbai police dispensation, like the Delhi police dispensation, is a distinct entity from the Maharashtra police per se. So the Mumbai police chief coordinates the efforts of the Mumbai police department, and the DG of Maharashtra, the director general, is, but at the time of the 26/11 attack, there was some kind of disconnect in terms of officials who were deployed. And I think you had also deposed before the Ram Pradhan committee and given some thoughts on this subject. How do you remember that, the lack of coordination, if I may put it that way, within the police department in the immediate aftermath of the attack?
You're quite right. The Mumbai Police Commissioner does not report to the DG of Police Maharashtra. He reports directly to the Home Department for Mumbai. And the DG of Police reports separately for the rest of Maharashtra. Well, for good functioning, there has to be good coordination between these two officers. And also within the police commissionerate, there has to be full cooperation, full understanding, and goodwill between the officers involved. Now, most of the officers who are working there then have retired. Some are no longer with us. And I would, at this point of time, I wouldn't like to mention names, but you're quite right. There was some lack of coordination, which I have mentioned before the committee. And this should not happen. This should not happen. Unfortunately, as the Home Secretary, I did not know about this lack of coordination. I don't know why I didn't know. It was well covered. I should have known about it, and I should have made full efforts to smooth out this lack of coordination. But I did not know about the lack of coordination within my department. You're
This
quite
lack
right.
of coordination would be some officers from the Mumbai Police Department actually being coordinated by the DG office rather than the Mumbai CP office. What, when you say lack of coordination?
Well, coordination in the sense within the police commissionerate, all the senior officers have to see eye to eye, even if they disagree. Okay, they disagree openly and then come to some conclusion about what needs to be done, what ought to be done. There has to be a give and take. There has to be communication. In some cases, even communication breaks down. And sitting in Mantralaya, I'm sorry, I did not know about this happening. It should not happen. It should not happen. And the basic is good coordination, good communication, and good we feeling among the top officers. That is a must.
All right. So coming to a post 26/11 phase, we had suffered such a huge, frontal assault on our society, our Indian society. It's not just Mumbai that was attacked. It was the Indian society that had been, targeted in this manner. Thereafter, the union government got sensitized about the need for modernization of the departments and the equipments available to our police force. And there was a lot of funding that was made available to modernize through weaponry, advanced weaponry and things. So in that process also, there were certain lapses that came to mind. I remember you had once even had to stop the procurement of high-speed boats. I remember you as Home Secretary having put a stop to the procurement. I mean, you have to look at both sides. One, there was a need for the same. And two, if it was not, what exactly was going wrong that you had to stop that particular procurement? For example, I believe it was around 12 high-speed boats that were, proposed to be procured. And you had to stop it. So why would that have happened?
Okay, in the immediate aftermath of the attack, a lot of funds were made available to the Home Department by the government. I remember Mr. Ashok Chavan had become the Chief Minister. He had a series of meetings with the Home Department, other departments, and he asked us for our requirements. And some requirements were put before the committee by the DG and by the police commissioner. So a good amount of money was sanctioned to my department, maybe in the region of 350 crore. Some of this money was for speedboat, some of it was for vests, the life jackets,
bulletproof
yes,
vest.
other equipment. And all this was happening in the month of December or January of
2008 and 9.
2009,
Okay.
2009. And I retired in the month of March 2009. So, but in that short period of 2 or 3 months, when the money was made available to us, I remember a lot of people coming and offering their goods and services, etc. I also remember receiving some proposals for purchases, and some of the proposals were, what should I call it? I mean, say the
Inflated?
rates inflate, accept these highly inflated proposals.
I'm sorry, we had a slight
Uh,
mishap of communication. Your voice was not clear. So some of these
okay.
proposals were inflated. What was exactly the challenge?
Some were inflated. So if you get an inflated proposal and you know it's inflated maybe to the extent of 5 times the normal price, you can't really pass it. But if you don't pass it, you're sending it back. You're asking the poor commissioner or whoever to have a relook at it. And this involves time. And in the meantime, your minister saying, what happened? Why have we not yet procured it? So you're under a great deal of pressure and tension. Okay, the police force needs shoes. Where are the shoes? Well, sir, I did receive a proposal, but it was highly inflated, so I've sent it back. No, 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 do it right now. That kind of a thing. And you're really caught in a bind. So that was my position then. That was my position then. And I also remember some people coming and offering us life jackets. Now, protection, jackets, vests for protection from bullets. Now
Bulletproof
you
vest.
can't take, yeah, bulletproof. You can't take these decisions just like that. You have to have somebody advising you, somebody having a look at what is being offered and comparing things. There must be so many providers of these goods and services. You can't say yes to the first person who comes before you. But you know what the contractors are like, and they put pressure on you. Then from you they go to the minister, they go to the chief minister. Your secretary is taking time in taking decisions, but it's not a good position to be in, because here you need that thing. You need the weapons, you need the jackets, you need the bullets, you need the shoes, but you cannot do it in a hurry, and not at the cost of paying 5 times or 6 times the regular cost. So that's what my position was.
You brought an interesting aspect to the fore here, about pressures. Now, I remember the late police chief of Mumbai, Hassan Ghafoor, who was similarly subjected to a lot of intense pressure. I remember, through the media of falling asleep when, after having spent an entire night in, active policing duty, when he was resting for half an hour in the afternoon in his car, sitting and had fallen asleep for a half-hour set. It was made out to be that it was a dereliction of duty. Similarly, there was a big hoo-ha made about you, and there were demands made to replace you, and I believe there was even some efforts by some political quarters to take out a morcha against you, claiming that you were a Kashmiri citizen of India. Can you give us some clarity about your authentic lineage and your connection to Kashmir?
Well, my connection to Kashmir is through my husband, who is a Kashmiri Pandit, and his family left Kashmir maybe 3 generations ago, looking for work in the country. There was not enough work to go around in Kashmir. That is my connection with Kashmir. My husband was also a part of the government of Maharashtra, and he's a Kashmiri Pandit.
So if I
And
stop you there, so that is why your Chitkala Zutshi, and Zutshi finds
yes,
its root in the word Jyotish. Am I right?
Jyotish, yes, yes,
So
that's right. And originally, I'm Chitkala Kirtikar. I'm a Mumbaikar. I'm a Pathare Prabhu from Mumbai. We are
one
a
of the original
tiny community.
inhabitants of the city.
And we are a tiny community of not more than 7 or 8,000 people. Now fast disappearing through migration and intermarriage and whatnot.
So what was that protest against you sought to? I mean, was it just a pressure tactic to get you replaced? because somebody else was wanted to be the Home Secretary of Maharashtra. There was some proposed morcha against you that was supposed to be taken out. Do you remember this?
I don't remember the morcha, but I do remember that in the legislature session that took place in Nagpur immediately after this attack.
Attack.
It was in the month of January, probably 2008. There was an attack made on me in the legislature saying, why should she continue when the home minister has been replaced and the chief minister has been replaced? So shouldn't the home secretary also be replaced? And that was one thing. The second was, why were special arrangements made to bring her out of the Taj? So Mr. Jayant Patil had become the home minister. He had replaced R.R. Patil. And I had a talk with him and I said, no special arrangements were made to get me out of the Taj. In fact, when I came out, there was this constable standing there who said, Bhai, pude chala, what are you doing there? Move on, No special arrangements were made for me. I was the third last to come out of the sea lounge. Then Madhavi followed and the foreigner, whoever he was.
And there were
Mr.
45 people in all who were evacuated from the sea lounge.
Probably, I don't remember. Probably. And Mr. Jayant Patil was fully convinced, because he had known me earlier as a finance secretary also. We knew each other. We may not have agreed on everything, but we knew what we were, what we were. So he said, you meet the opposition people in their chambers and explain all this to them and say that no special efforts were made to bring you out. You just came out like anyone else. So I met them here in the assembly in their office. I explained the situation. Then five or six of the very senior opposition leaders were there. And then when I explained the situation, they were convinced. And then I was given that more or less an assurance that no further attacks would be made on me personally. And then they stuck to that promise.
But that apart, this is quite a issue, because I do remember one of the intercepts and the recorded conversations of the handlers in Pakistan with the terrorists who were in the Taj. And one of those recordings, you could clearly hear them saying कि वहां home secretary फंसे हुए हैं, उन्हें पकड़ लो, हम Kasab को छुड़ा देंगे. By the time Kasab had already been taken into custody.
Yeah.
So this is the first night, the 26/11 and 27/11 night when this conversation took place. So what was that about? Why, how was such real-time information about you being, trapped in the Taj leaked out so that the Pakistani handlers were able to, direct the terrorists in Taj?
I will tell you that when I was inside and my phone was still working, it had not gone on the blink. A journalist called me up. You know who it was. I don't know whether I should mention his name, but he called me. Madam, kai challai? What's happening? Where are you? I said, look, I can't speak to you now because I'm inside the Taj and I have to keep silent. I can't make a noise. I can't talk to you. He said, are you inside? I said, yes. Why don't you come out? I said, no, I can't. There is no way I can get out. Okay, then I believe he made this fact known. And this was probably broadcast that I was inside. After
by
this,
the channels.
By some channel, yeah. And the handlers saw this. So I was told by the police, the Mumbai police, that they have a recording of the handlers giving instructions to the terrorists inside the Taj, saying, Badhai ho, additional cabinet secretary pakde gaye hain. That's what they said. Additional cabinet secretary pakde gaye hain. Unko dhoondo aur khatam karo.
Okay.
Unko dhoondo aur khatam karo. Those were the instructions given. Of course, when they said additional cabinet secretary, they thought it was a male officer. But well, even if they had known it was a female or a lady, I don't think they would know where to look for me. So yeah, so anyway, I didn't know about it when all this was happening. I came to know about it much later.
I do remember that I was the second journalist who was in touch with you, on that fateful night. In fact, I had reached out to you hearing about the CST incident of firings and all that we were getting to know from the police,
Yes,
which
yes,
claimed that it was
yes.
just a gang war that was ongoing. And then I got an intelligence officer calling me up and asking me. That's when I realized it was more than a gang war, and I had reached out to you. And then I learned that you were, entrapped in
Quite
the
right.
Taj Hotel. And I can never
Quite
forget that your words to me was, after you said, Rennie, we cannot talk on the phone for much because we are under attack here. And he said, but stay in touch with me on SMS. It suggested to me that it was a very dire and precarious situation you were in. And, the rest of the night was a huge blur to me because I could not reconcile about till I came to know that you were safe, that, what was going to be your fate that night. So there you are, going through such a situation. I also believe that you kind of shepherded the people who were stuck in the sea lounge. And, even in that adverse situation, that you were able to, one, give the police chief due support and intelligence about what needed to be done and how the army needed to be contacted. But even in that precarious situation where there is bullets and bombs flying all around the place in Taj, you were also shepherding the people who were stuck in the sea lounge, and foreigners, including a lot of foreigners, and all of whom, along with you, got evacuated the next morning. But that night, can you describe that process of how you kept people, easy, and, even despite the terror attack ongoing?
Well, there were a few ladies who had come up from the Chinese restaurant on the ground floor. So they had come up and they had been shepherded into our sea lounge. Then some of them were extremely nervous and they were shaking and saying, "Oh, we saw them, we saw them." They were shaking, trembling. And then I remember them, one or two of them getting under our table and saying, "Help us." So, okay, we said, "Okay, take it easy, nothing's going to happen to you," etc., etc. So, as I said, I didn't feel any trauma or any fear at that point of time. I didn't feel fear. I did feel impatient. I felt I had to get out and be in Mantralay, be in the control room, be with my people, office people, finding out what was happening, helping them, etc. I remember feeling impatient, but I don't remember fear at that point of time. The trauma came 2 days later. It came 2 days later. And then it lasted for about 2 days. But I couldn't give in to it because I had to be in Mantralay. I had to be in touch with people. I had to make sure that Mr. R.R. Patil was being fed with the correct information, things like that. I didn't have the luxury of lying in bed and saying, "Okay, I'm going to put my feet up and do nothing."
But there you are, like you said, the trauma PTSD happened 2 days later. That is post the
Sure.
terror attack having been brought to a cessation by the
Yes,
specialized
yes, yes.
NS3 commandos and all. So you didn't even have the luxury to go into trauma till the terror
No.
attack. I mean, that is a
Well,
very,
God is great. God is great. It didn't happen. It didn't happen.
true. No, there you are, Chitkala. I do remember I kept telling a lot of people this, when there was some attacks being mounted upon you for having failed in your duties as Home Secretary. And I used to say this to people. She was probably the one Mardani, the one man who, who stood up to the terror attack and discharged her duties so well. And this is also an effort to, try to set that record straight, because we do know that you had been working even while under a terror attack, and being a hostage to
Thank
the
you.
Taj.
Thank
So
you. I mean, I did whatever I could. I did my best, and God was great. I didn't I didn't crumple up or anything. God allowed me to keep functioning. So God is great, and He saved my life.
it was really nice talking to you, although we are talking on a subject of 2611, which left a huge scar on the Indian psyche about what terror really means. It brought home the fact that how we need to have a continuous alert. One last question I must ask you: there were, like you said, a lot of hardware that was offered to us, to the Indian government, by a lot of foreign agencies, which would help us to. So there was also talk about such instruments of, phone tapping and things that were, imported and were supposed to be installed at the Mumbai police commissionerate, and there was some misgivings about how it was mishandled or so, and that you were at the receiving end of such equipment being used to tap your phones, though you were the home secretary, the only person authorized to authorize such phone tappings. Can you share something about something like that that may have transpired then? You may not need to take names, but I'm referring to certain instances that were cited, which never came out really into the open. And how can the home secretary's phones be tapped, and what was really happening?
As I said, Reni, all this was happening. All the equipment being the money given to us for equipment, then foreign agencies coming and offering their advice, expertise, equipment. All this was happening in the months of January, February. And I
Yes.
retired at the end of March
Yes.
when I reached 60 years of age. So I don't really know what equipment was really ordered, what was really bought, what was really procured. But just generally speaking, when you are in a sensitive post like that, uh, the thought the thought does enter your mind that maybe you are yourself under surveillance, legal, illegal, whatever, by your own people. The thought does enter your mind, and it did enter my mind that probably what I was saying and doing was or saying on the phone, for example, was being listened into. There is just a thought that entered my mind. I don't know. I mean, I don't know more than that.
Okay. Okay. Now, I just asked because I was given to understand that there was something like that that happened. Unfortunately, one couldn't write about it, because you could not verify. So it's nice of you to
Exactly.
say that you yourself also had a sense like that, because I was given this impression also through my contacts and sources that, probably the hardware that was to be installed in the Mumbai police crime branch was instead taken by some official to his own residence, and therefore it was being used for such eavesdropping and things like that. So that is why I cited it to you, and I'm happy to note that even you had a sense of
Yeah,
something like that
yeah,
happening.
these doubts do enter one's mind when you're in that kind of a position.
Right.
And well, I'm very happy to be out of it now. But again, to repeat, never again. I do hope this never happens again. Never, ever, never, ever.
Yes,
And
I
I
wish
think
the
of all
same
those
for our
people, yeah,
for
all
the
those people who lost their near and dear ones, people who were maimed, people who were harmed. I mean, psychological harm, physical harm, and never again. It should never, ever happen again
Yes,
to
here's
our
hoping the
people.
same, Chitkala. And at least I think we have, moved on from there. And in recent years, we've seen that we are no longer a soft state. In the earlier days, India was always considered a soft state per se. But we have seen in recent times how, when there was a Pulwama attack, there was a retaliatory, strike, across the borders by India. And I'm sure those steps that were taken post 26/11 to enhance and modernize and has gone a long way in us reaching this situation today, where not just the capability exists but also the political will exists to handle any such threat that may emanate.
Just one comment, one
Please.
comment. Yes,
Please.
I do. I'm sure things have improved vastly. But there was this person who had come and met us from the US security agencies immediately in the aftermath of the terror attack. And his words were that after the World Trade Center attacks in New York, nothing has ever happened. Nothing on that scale has happened ever in our country. And people give the benefit or give the credit for that to all the steps we have taken, all the security steps. But
Right.
what he said was that doesn't mean that this can never happen. And nothing you do ever is foolproof against some calamity like this happening.
Yes,
Yeah.
we had
Look,
even
I mean,
seen the same thing happening even in recently when the Hamas launched an all-out strike in Israel, and we saw so many people being killed. 1,400 was last count. And, so like you said, it's never not happening again. But one thing that can be taken from 26/11 and even the recent, Israeli attack in Israel is that post 26/11, we saw a huge coalition of global nations coming together. You yourself mentioned about how so many foreign agencies came across and coordinate with us. Now, that was because there were so many foreign nationals also who perished in the 26/11 attack. Because if you remember, 2 years prior to the 26/11 attack, probably more people died in the serial train blasts that happened in Mumbai again. But there was no such coordinated work by world agencies coming together. And we saw that as a difference after 26/11, which also saw a lot of lives being lost, of just a few lives less than the 26 the 2006 serial train bombings in Mumbai city. Same thing we have seen now in Israel after the Israel attack, where again a lot of foreign nationals were also involved in the terror strike. The world nations came together in trying to root out Hamas. So that learning tells us that the world comes together. It's a common problem that the world faces today. And though we wish that never again such an attack takes place, this coordination that happened post 2011 goes in a long way to ensure that something like that doesn't happen again, is it not?
Quite right, quite right. As I mentioned, when you said that, what have we learned? That's what I said. It's coordination. Everyone has to get together. They have to forget about their individual egos, their individual fiefdoms, etc. And they have to come collaborate with each other. And it cannot be a game of one-upmanship. You have to collaborate and help each other out for the general good. Yes.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Chitkala Zuchi, for sharing your thoughts. And we remember 26/11 with a lot of pain in our hearts, but we look forward to having, enhanced abilities and capabilities to tackle any such eventuality, even if it were to happen again in the future. And thanks to officers and personnel like you who stood up and manned up to the terror attack even while it unfolded. It was really nice talking to you. I hope to do some further interactions with you also as we go ahead, and on subjects maybe related to finance also, where you have done a stellar role in trying to curb the profligacy of finances. I know about instances when you did stand up and point out
I was thrown out. I was thrown out.
of the finance department. But I guess that was because you stood up to, top, the chief of the political dispensation in Maharashtra and refused to release funds. That's for another time, Chitkala. I would love to come back to you on that and have something on, how Maharashtra enacted the fiscal responsibility bill and things like that, when our liability book was in dire straits. And that is taking you back to another era of your government service as Finance Secretary, Additional Chief Secretary Finance. But that's for another time. It was nice talking to you. And thank you so much for coming to News Truth. That is the effort also of this interaction that we've had to bring out certain aspects. Have a great day and a great life ahead of you. And till we meet again, it's goodbye to you, Chitkala.
Goodbye, Rennie, and thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you.